Friends, dreadful days ahead as we come closer to July 31st with the last minute rush for completing the income tax return forms. The hardest thing to understand in the world is income tax. You know who said this? None other than Albert Einstein. Benjamin Franklin once said, "Nothing in life is certain except death and taxes." Income tax is indeed a complex subject, especially for common men like me and many of you, probably. The numerous sections combined with innumerable provisions, circulars, and court judgments together enhances the complexity. As a common man, I always thought why it cannot be simplified, why the income tax things cannot be simplified. But when I go more into details, I understand even simplification of income tax is a very complex subject. But still, there could be some potential approaches to make things simpler as I gather from experts, when I talk to the experts. One very simple thing which can be done by governments can be simplifying the tax brackets. Having fewer brackets with wider ranges can definitely simplify the whole process. Try to minimize exemptions and deductions. That itself can make things much simpler. Actually, that is the new regime of income tax in India. They're trying to do that. Although some deductions are valuable, but many of the things are very confusing. Another very good idea to make things simpler is, introducing pre-filled return forms with options. The government could pre-fill the tax returns to a great extent with the income reported by the individuals and also by the banks, etc. The pre-filled tax forms come and the individual can just go through it and just accept it. That sounds very simple there. Or while reviewing, you can make some adjustments and then accept it. By increasing standard deduction itself can automatically reduce the complexity of filing tax returns, because it automatically reduces the taxable income. Even if one has to really do the filling of tax returns, definitely some thought can be put in to make the form simpler for a common man to do the filling. Talking about the online filing system, that can be made much simpler. Currently, India offers two tax regimes, the old one and the new one. Actually, that adds a lot of complexity, confusion into that, especially for a person like me also. There has been a time when I was working as a salaried employee, things were very simple. So I had put in a lot of efforts to understand the income tax return, the rules, everything, and I used to file the returns myself. It was a sort of prestige for me, probably an ego, to satisfy my ego, that I don't take the help of a professional chartered accountant or someone, but I want to do it myself. But things were much simple with only salary income coming to me and maybe a little bit of, income from house property in addition. Once I retired a year back, I started having a consultancy job which starts giving me a business income also. So there is a business income in addition to the pension income or the salary income, then income from household properties. Then I started doing a lot of activities in mutual fund and the shares. So a lot of short-term capital gains, long-term capital gains and things like that coming into this. The whole thing made very complex to me. All of a sudden, I felt the requirement of going to a professional chartered accountant's help. So the last few years, I've been using the help of a chartered accountant. The added complexity is, when I start selling certain assets of mine. So that again, the index calculation and the long-term capital gain calculation and how to avoid unnecessary tax payment and all these things make things so complex. So I was not feeling confident myself. So I definitely went in for a chartered accountant's help. One thing which is definitely needs to be done is to enhance the public awareness, the education of the public, and enhancing the awareness about the tax basics and the basics of filing returns. And also there should be a good sort of encouragement for using software for filing returns. Definitely the best way to simplify income tax will depend on various factors such as the tax system prevailing and the priorities of the country. While on the subject, it can be seen that several countries have achieved a very simplified regime of income tax. Some countries like Estonia and Latvia, they have a very simplified structure of a flat rate income tax on the income and the capital gains, things like that. Maybe a 20% flat rate or 23% flat rate. This eliminates the complexity of multiple tax brackets. In addition, countries like Estonia have digital pre-filled tax returns, making filing very straightforward for the common man. New Zealand, a country, is known to use scheduler taxation, meaning different income types like wages, interest, extra taxed at different rates. However, the rates are relatively low and straightforward. So there is a question, can we completely avoid income tax by going to expenditure tax regime? In theory, it is yes, but there are definitely lots of challenges to consider. That's why it's not very easy, and countries are not completely changing from income tax, taxing the income, to taxing the expenditures. Tracking and recording every expenditure is again going to be very complex. Enforcement is also very complex system. The questions about the fairness, while no country currently relies on solely on expenditure tax regime, some have experimented with it. Even India has done some experimentation in the past, but had to be eventually abolished due to various complexities. Actually, one has to find a balance between income and expenditure tax regimes so as to address some of the fairness and enforcement concerns. While complete expenditure taxation could totally eliminate the income tax in theory, its practical implementation faces significant challenges. Then how governments can think of eliminating income tax to the extent possible? Governments definitely cannot completely avoid income tax, considering various factors like need for the revenue, income tax being the major source of revenue for the government to fund essential services and infrastructure development. Alternative taxes might not be sufficient. Actually, a progressive income tax system ensures more fairness, allowing governments to collect higher percentage of taxes from higher income groups. Thus helps to redistribute wealth and promote social programs and benefits to common man. But government can think of relying more on consumption tax, like sales tax and VAT and things like that. Try to increase income to the government by taxing more on the natural resources like oil, gas, and minerals and things like that, and charging more and more fees to the government services, tolls for the roads, etc., etc. So try to find more and more avenues for more income to the government other than the income tax. So reduce relying more on income tax. That's something which can be thought of. Actually, some countries like UAE have very low income tax or no income tax due to their reliance on oil revenue. They have a good amount of revenue from the oil otherwise. But definitely this is not a sustainable solution for most of the countries. While on the subject, it is also to be mentioned that income tax evasion is a persistent problem faced by most of the governments. There is a need to strengthen the enforcement by increased audits, increased data analysis and data sharing, stronger penalties. All these things can be done to avoid tax evasion. Definitely, there is a need for governments to look at making things simpler for the common man, for filing the tax returns, do more, strengthen more enforcement to avoid tax evasion, look at generating avenues for generating more and more income from other sources so that you rely less on income tax, and try to reduce income tax as we progress. So let me tell you that these are all the feelings and the views and the suggestions from a common man, not as an expert in the income tax rules. Thank you.